Now then, everyone, welcome to the Wedding Mavericks podcast with me, Lindsay, and Jules. This is a podcast for wedding videographers and photographers where we discuss all aspects of running a business, developing technical knowledge and skills, and pushing your creativity.
Today we want to talk about the more creative and technical side of wedding photography and videography. But honestly, that isn't really the thing that makes us feel passionate or excited. Because, sure, I definitely love tech. I'm not going to deny that I mean, Lindsay knows. You know, I'm always buying shit. So Lindsay knows I love tech, and I do love learning. You know, how to create things. So I love understanding the technical side of photo and video. Definitely out of the two of us, that would be something that I focus on more and get myself involved in more. Because I guess I've always been sort of like that. I like learning new things and things, what have you. But we didn't come into doing this from a film or photography background.
No.
We didn't come to it from like an art school background. We've never really been into art, or we've never done anything that was particularly creative. We've got to our mid-30s, haven't we, before we've actually come into this particular career. So for us, the focus, you know, because of our background, the focus is a little bit different maybe to what it is for some other people.
Yeah.
In relation to being a creative, being a photographer, being a videographer, weddings, you know, that sort of thing. So rather than just discussing the technical side and the creative side in a very general way, and talking about like, you know, just solely talking about the actual way you would set your camera up, the way that you would create an image, the way you would light and compose things, with no like real direction as such, as in no real why are we doing it like that? We feel it's more useful to talk about it in relation to what you are wanting to achieve and why you are a wedding photographer or videographer in the first place.
Yeah.
So today we are hoping to encourage you to ask yourself some questions, and or at least remind yourself of the real reasons that you're a wedding photographer or videographer. And, you know, that could lead you down some rabbit holes. You could end up thinking, actually, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but that's kind of the point. It's to focus you and make you think about why you actually do this.
Yeah, and I think it's just as relevant, I feel, for people who have been in the industry and been doing this as a profession, from those that are new to it, those that have been doing it for a little while, but those that have been doing it for a long time as well.
Yeah.
I think the question of why, what is it that's still making you do this? And I know we'll get to the questions, but I think it's a very relevant topic for people at all levels of their experience.
Yeah, whatever
think
stage you're at in your photography, videography, wedding photography, videography career, it will help to think about this, I think. So, and then as we go through the next few episodes, we can keep linking back to this so that we can, you know, the decisions that we make about how we do things or what we do, we can hopefully link it back to, you know, basing it around values and the intentions that we have as wedding photographers and videographers, rather than being distracted by the other things we see, hear, or become influenced in. That will make, if you haven't already like thought about what I mean by that, is that will make more sense as we go through this, hopefully. And this is going to be different for different people. There's no right or wrong answer. But in today's episode, we wanted to talk about understanding your why and why it is so important, because it should underpin everything that you do when you're shooting a wedding and when you're making decisions about your business.
Yeah. It should be the first thing for me. It should be the first thing that you're considering when you are, if you thought that wedding photography or videography could be a career for you and you're thinking of starting your own business, you've had that idea, so you've got your idea for the business. This is your next port of call. Yeah. This is where you should come to.
Any business, really, but we're talking about this one, but it could be any business, couldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And we kind of touched on the why anyway when we were looking at branding, because it plays a huge part in that. It plays a massive part in helping you understand your kind of identity as a professional, as a business owner in this particular industry. And I think that if you don't understand your why, it could be that you're flitting about from one trend, or fad to kind of the next, and not quite feeling, that's sort of resonating with you at the core, if you like. It could be in quite a complimentary way, of course. You're trying to emulate other people that you see, or simply just find your place, as it were, and that's okay when you're starting out, because that's going to help you learn how to do things as you go. It's going to help you to learn how to develop as a photographer and a videographer. And of course, it's only through kind of trial and error and getting this experience, kind of really putting yourself out there and delving into trying to understand what are the things that make you tick, what is your why. It's only then that you're going to discover what are the things that you like and you don't like, and things that kind of bring you that sort of that happiness and fulfillment in what you're doing. Yeah,
because in anything you're going to experiment a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah.
But to find true success, not necessarily in financial, but in like balance and fulfillment, and could create a sustainable business, you really need to establish your why and have everything kind of branch out from that. Because if you just, let's say, to try and put a practical example into that, I've seen this photo on Instagram, and it's using off-camera flash, and the sky is this colour, and I've used gels, and the couple are there posing like this. I'm sure we can all picture that image in our heads. Nothing wrong with that image, by the way. I've tried to incorporate those sorts of images into our work sometimes, and I think that's an amazing skill to have. But let's just say that that's kind of, you basically base it on, I want to make that image, right? But why? What does that fit into what you actually want to do for your couple and for you as a wedding photographer or videographer? Because if you want to get that image, you're probably going to have to spend quite a lot of time understanding that process. You're going to have to buy some extra bits of equipment and what have you. And then on the actual when you compose that photo, when you like that photo, and then you create that photo, that's going to take some time. So you're going to be messing around at that wedding unless you've been doing this for years and you literally know, right, bish, bash, bosh, I've done it. And you're happy spending quite a bit of time on these photos, and the couples are happy spending quite a bit of time on these photos. It's going to take you quite a lot of time to create that photo, and that's going to probably require a certain approach from you, a certain tolerance isn't the right word, but the couple are going to have to be happy that they're going to spend quite a bit of time creating those images. And if that's at the core of what you're trying to create and the core of your business, then that's great. But if that's actually not, if that doesn't sit right with everything else that you're doing in relation to your business and the type of images that you then tend to create through the day, and the images that you and the kind of approach that you want to have to the wedding, then it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? Because you've basically gone, I want to create that image, but it doesn't necessarily fit into the rest of it. So you've started with an image. You haven't started with a why you're doing this. hopefully, I don't know. Do you think that actually makes sense?
Yeah.
Because I've just done that off the cuff.
No, I think you're right, because if you've decided that as a wedding photographer, that's what drives you, that is your why, and that's what you want to be able to create for your couples, then like you've just said, you will understand what it takes to create that. You'll understand what resources you're going to need to be able to do that, and you're going to be able to explain that to the couple. So you'll obviously be showcasing and marketing yourself based on an ability to create images like that. You need to make sure that you're explaining that to your couples so that they understand. So then when it comes to the wedding day and that kind of preparation's needed and that time is needed from the couple on the day to kind of set that up and be in position with you and everything to achieve it, you know, that's fine. Because it could be, of course, that because I know that you're kind of going to go towards this, because this is not just about what our why is and our kind of approach to things. So when we're talking about this, we are talking about professionals with all sorts of different approaches here.
Yeah.
Like you've said, so that might just be an example of one type.
That's one approach and one
yeah.
type of image that you might hang your hat on in terms of your style.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just about the couple, it's also about you. So maybe you get caught up in trying to create an image. Let's just say that's the image that you've decided you want to try and create, but at the core of it, you're actually a very, reportage, candid type photographer. But you've somewhere along the way of trying to work out what your business's identity is and what your photography identity is. You've thought, I'm going to give this off-camera flash, showbiz photo-looking stuff a go, and you get caught up in it, and it's actually not really connecting with your deep roots in why you're doing this. So there's nothing wrong with either approach or any approach. It is about understanding your approach so that you can build everything from that.
That's it. It's about identifying what that is, ensuring that connects with you, and you know that that's what you want to inject into your business, and those are the types of clients that you want to be able to attract, and then being consistent with that. So where that will fall down is, like you've just said, if we've got somebody who's not quite sure what their their ethos is, or what their why is yet, where they're kind of trying to get things to, maybe following different trends, you're gonna come unstuck then.
Yeah.
If you're just thinking, right, I've been on somebody's course and they did this and that was brilliant and that's what I want to do. But again, that could be a single image in the whole day. What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the reason we can say this is because we're not saying it from a third party outsider's perspective. We can say this because I know I have tried to incorporate certain things into our weddings because I wanted to understand how to do that. I wanted to learn how to do that. I wanted to give it a go. I thought it looked cool or whatever, but it's not actually, and I'm not saying I'll never do an off-camera flash image. It's just that spending a lot of time over it and trying to create something very specific, that doesn't make me tick.
No, and it puts an additional pressure on you, doesn't it? So instead of just doing what comes naturally to you, and trying to kind of stay true to that, when you know that's what the couples have come to you for, you're putting this additional layer of pressure on yourself of needing to have that right equipment with you, then go through this process of testing it. And if you're by yourself and you've thought, I want to test this, oh no, Lindsay's not here, I can't get to just stand there for me, well, we'll just test this. And
so then you've got the couple
I've told
waiting
them that
there
I'm going
for
to do this,
a few
and
minutes, and it all gets a bit stressful. So, background time. We are not inventing this, by the way. So this is all kind of stemming from someone called Simon Sinek. You may have heard of him. I would imagine most people have. Kind of very well-known author and kind of thinker, entrepreneur. I don't know exactly how you would describe him. And he did basically a TED Talk, which is about what we're going to talk about now, probably about 10, 15 years ago. And it blew up from there. It went viral on the internet, and then his career kind of really took off in terms of speaking events and doing books, all sorts of books.
Leadership
is the thing. Yeah, that's the right terminology. So we both came across him when we were going through our transition, really, from what we used to do into this. Mm-hmm. And we came across him and we read books and we listened to things and watched things. And we find him, he's really good storyteller, and he's good at explaining things in a way that's very engaging. And this concept that we're going to go through now, which is where all this sort of stemmed from, called the Golden Circle. And this leads on to kind of the start with your why. And these are names of books and presentations and stuff that he's given. But basically, this is what we're going to be talking about in relation to how we know what our little nucleus is and where we kind of work out from. So everything that we do stems from a why. So what he did was, the Golden Circle was basically 3 rings. So 3 rings round each other. If you want to go and check this out, just type in Simon Sinek on YouTube or on Google, and it'll come up with loads of stuff. Mm-hmm. You can watch his YouTube videos, there'll be loads of YouTube videos that are all of this presentation on the Golden Circle and the why thing. And basically, he was talking about how companies and how businesses structure themselves in a certain way, and they basically have historically tried to say, this is what we do. So this is the products and services that we provide, how we do it, which is what makes them stand out. So, with their USP or whatever, why you should buy from them, why they're better than the competition. And the why never really got mentioned. It was all about the product and all about why they're so good. Whereas he talks about how the really successful either people or businesses, organizations, they work the opposite way, and they start with why and explain how they do something, and then the what is just kind of there. The what, it could be anything. He does an example about Apple, and he talks about how Apple aren't just a company that sell computers, but they sell all these different things, and nobody cares that they don't just sell computers and that they're not like these specialists in just computers. They'll buy a watch, or they'll buy a phone or a MP3 player from them because of the fact that they focus on the why, and it's about the purpose, the cause, and what they believe in, rather than just saying this is a product and this is why you should buy it. So I'm not sure I'll have summarised that well enough.
No, that's enough. I think there'll be plenty of people that are a bit familiar with this.
Yeah, and I think if you're not, you should go and look at it. And
absolutely, yeah.
I promise you that you'll be thinking that was pretty shit, Jew. Simon Sinek explained it much better in his presentation, but that's why I'm not speaking to millions of people. So, the books sort of Start With Why, I think it's called, is a really good book also, and then he's done some other stuff on leadership, and it's all really good reads. It's all really good. The videos he does are brilliant. I always enjoy watching and listening and reading. So that's kind of where we're stemming this from. We're building it on this concept, aren't we? Mm-hmm. We're building what our videography business should be focused around is built on this principle. Mm. So to quote Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So we need to tell a bit of a story about ourselves, and there are kind of a few steps to this.
Yeah.
So we go back 6-7 years. We're working in the police. We're both unfulfilled. We're fed up. We're wanting something more, and we're wanting a better balance. Mm-hmm. And that is basically the starting point of all this.
Yeah. We had a similar length of sort of service in the police by the time we left, didn't we? And we did different things, but I would say that we were good. We were confident at what we did. We were very capable. It enough that we were both quite well respected in what we did. And on the face of it, on the surface of it, I guess you could say that it was a fairly successful career for both of us, very promising. I was a detective, you were a sergeant. If we'd stayed, who knows, we could have, continued through the ranks of sort of promotion and been in very sort of different positions now. Because of those jobs in life, we had job security. We had good salaries, a very stable and comfortable level of income for the house. We had a good standard of living. We were able to manage the childcare around the kids because we would work
you mean we could pay? We had money to pay for the childcare as well.
Yeah, kind of. But when they became of an age where we could go, we needed sort of nursery and things like that before or after school club. We were able to fund that, holiday clubs and things like that. But as you'd said, unfulfilled would be the word. Certainly, I felt quite disillusioned with what I was doing. Didn't kind of believe in it a great deal anymore. That's not because I don't think that the police don't do a good job, because they really do, but just unfortunately there's so many barriers and red tape and processes that get in the way of them always being able to do the right thing, and that a lot of that's to do with the courts, but I'm not going to get on my soapbox. So we'd just reached a point for different reasons where we didn't really believe in what we were doing anymore. Plus, really, it was massively impactful on our home life. We were forced to kind of also get involved in things that we didn't believe in the workplace, things that just did not make sense, of which there were many. Politics, workplace politics, procedures, new kind of ideas that didn't make any sense. Yeah, and if you think about you will have had different reasons to join the police as what I did, and if you think about kind of at that point, knowing what you understand about the concept of why now, or your own kind of personal mission statement, if you like, what that was all about was really conflicting with what was demanded of you day to day. Yeah. So it just, in different ways, for different reasons, was no longer making us feel very good. And just because we could afford all of that childcare, and just because we could manage to work out a shift pattern that meant that we would work opposite shifts and have very few days off together, just because we could do that didn't mean that it was very good in terms of our own sort of family values and what was important to us. It just didn't make sense. Yeah. Anymore.
So that kind of brought us to, we didn't really have a why at this point. We are just working, and there are so many people, and you might even feel like this doing wedding photography and videography, that you don't really have a why, that you just ended up doing it. And certainly for me, Lindsay probably went into the police because it was a conscious decision. I went in looking for a job at a time where I'd kind of changed my mind about what I was going to do, and I didn't really know what to do. So I just applied for loads of jobs, and that was one of them. And it turned out, it all worked out. We were pretty good at it, but we didn't, at this point, and this is going back 6 or 7 years before we left, we didn't have a why. And we were just going through the motions. We were feeling unmotivated, uninspired, and couple this with the impact that it had on the quality of family life. Because when we started in the police, we didn't have kids, and our lives were very different. So it's not bad, really. It's quite a social job to have. You meet a lot of people, and you work with people quite closely. You tend to go out and socialise with them, and we mixed in the same circles, so that worked well for us there. But remove that, because you then have children and everything. Life progresses and changes, and I suppose your why can change, or or what it is that you makes you kind of tick can change. Yeah. So at this point, it wasn't really making for a very happy existence, and we developed our why almost by accident from this kind of negative place, knowing that we needed to make a change, well, changes really, and we didn't really know what else we could do. So we were looking for something that brought us joy, that kind of feeling of, I'm happy going to work, which I know not everybody has, and if you don't have it, it's because we know what that feels like. If you don't have that, it's quite tiring, because you spend so much time at work that you really do need to have an element of enjoyment from what you do. Yeah. So we needed to find some fulfillment from us work, and it wasn't just going to be about earning a wage and punching a clock and living for the weekend, because at this point there are no weekends anyway, because we barely spent time together because of the opposite shifts and because of specifically working opposite shifts to manage childcare. So it drew on things that I wish I had. It kind of was led by me, because you were looking at different things, weren't you? You've always had an interest in education and training and teaching, and so you were looking at kind of the going down the line of teaching, and funnily enough, that actually transpired later on down the line, and that's something that we kind of both share, but that's definitely Lindsay's big passion. And for me, it drew on things that I wish I'd had more of: images, videos of people like my dad, who died 15 years ago when I was a young adult, more photos and videos of my childhood and my earlier days. And as I got to like being a teenager, I really kind of threw myself into capturing everything. I got a camera, or had cameras. I had access to video cameras, and I had a photo camera. And then obviously later on down the line, as you get into 20s and stuff, we've got camera phones and things. But I always had like cameras with me, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But it was just I just loved taking photos and capturing videos of things. So I recorded things because I always knew how important they'd be. And obviously, as you get older and you change and other people change and the people come in and out of your lives, and you want to be able to look back on that. And if all you've got is the memories in your mind and you don't have anything visual to look back on, then that it does make it a much more difficult and much... there isn't as much connection, as being able to look at something visual or hear something. So my interest was wanting to capture memories and preserve them for people. And if we can make them look fun and interesting and pretty, then that's great. And if we can tell a story through those images and films, and be able to provide that like extra level of connection for those people to look back on, that's, that just enhances the preserving the memories. It makes those memories pop and come to life even more. And I kind of know that these are going to be the most treasured possessions that people have, because they're the most treasured possessions that I probably have or don't have. I wish I had more of my dad. I wish I had videos of my dad for, just to be able to hear his voice. I don't really have anything with his voice on. Same with my grandmas, they've passed away. So there's that. So our why for me was born from what made me tick. And I channeled this. This is before this was a thought of a business or anything like that. This is just what I used to do, isn't it? I used to I'd just be taking photos and videos of everything. Obviously, once we started having kids, I started documenting them and taking photos and videos of those all the time. And I'd put them together as little slideshows. I'd create these slideshows to music and things, and I'd give them to Lindsay as like presents for like anniversaries and birthdays and things like that. Mm-hmm. And we'd love looking back on our wedding video. Yeah. So this was kind of what it was all about for me. And the thing that solidified it, I think, was so our youngest child, Amy, is adopted, and when we were going through that process, as part of the process of the assessment and everything, we created this video and this little photo book type thing that just sort of had some very, it had a bit of text with it that we created, didn't we, and the photos, and it was just about kind of telling a bit of a story about her coming into our lives and what it meant and everything. And so, you know, this hobby and putting these things together, it was my passion. So when we were looking at what we could do as a business, that was it. It was just staring us in the face.
Yeah.
And that is basically the backstory to what would then become the why. So the why for us is, you know, we built this into the heart of everything we do. And although along the process of having our business for the last 5 years and doing different things and trying different things, we've got a bit caught up in things at different times, or I've certainly got caught up in, you know, trying to like do it like this, create videos like this, or create images like that. We eventually, you know, over the last sort of year, when we've been kind of thinking about rebranding and everything, we've come back to exactly what we do, and the way we do it. You know, it's all influenced by what we want to create at the end, which is those like legacies, those memories for people. And that is at the heart of everything we do. So yes, we want to make things look nice and pretty and beautiful. We want to make things look epic and interesting. We want people to really kind of catch people's attention sometimes, or you know, people be able to engage with the videos or whatever. But at the heart of it, what has to be always the kind of true north is those memories need to be preserved for people.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Ah.
It's been so nice listening to you talk about that. Because then, you know, just two little things, you know, our wedding film, it's nothing like the things that we create, the things that other videographers create nowadays. You know, it's 15 years ago, isn't it? But it seems so old-fashioned. But I just love the fact that our kids have been able to watch that.
Yeah.
Because we had children after we were married, and yeah, the fact that they've both been able to watch that is huge. And you mentioned Amy, and there will come a point as she gets a little bit older that we want to be honest with Amy about how she came to be part of our family, and the things that you've created, the photographs that we've taken along the way, you know, the little videos and slideshows and things like that. Again, massive, just so important, so meaningful, and so much more than words.
Exactly.
Written
Yeah.
on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm really not thinking about it, but you know, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, that's
Start
just
blabbing
magic.
on podcast, sniffling into the mic.
Sorry.
So
yes, move on.
All right, so we'll change kind of direction a little bit for a second. So it's a bit like this podcast. You know, why are we doing it? Yes, there are several motivations for committing all this time that we do to it every week. Believe me, it takes a hell of a lot of time. And we don't really have that time, but we want to do this. We're passionate about doing this. And at the heart of it, the why is to give people something that we didn't have access to. We want to share that with people. Because we wish we'd had this to help us. And we want to help people who are like us. You know, they're trying to do something that they enjoy and make a living from it whilst feeling fulfillment in from their work. You know, maybe you know, you're younger and you've come out of school, college, university, and you're trying to find what it is that you're going to do with your life. Maybe it's like us, you've done something else and you're looking for that thing, that spark, that thing that's going to reignite your passion, and you're going to really enjoy working again because you haven't for so long. And if we can help people get there, then that's amazing. So, you know, this is a straightforward, no bullshit insight into getting where you want to be. If you want to start, build and grow a wedding photography or videography business, then the stuff we talk about here is, you know, it's probably going to be really helpful. So please help us grow it by giving a little share on your socials, and someone else might see it. They might give it a listen, and it could be the thing that helps them get to where they want to be with their photography or videography business. So cool. That's kind of another passion for us, isn't it? Like we've already mentioned education and things, and that's got a slightly, you know, that's almost like a different why. You can have more than one why, I think, especially if you've got more than one business interest, one business focus.
Yeah. So how can we help you to start to think about your why then? If you're listening to this and thinking, well, I just do it for these reasons, or I do it for these reasons, you know, I don't overthink it, I don't really go too deep into it, maybe I should. So how do I, you know, perhaps you haven't heard of this concept before, the why concept, and you don't know who Simon Sinek is. As Jules has mentioned, it'd really be worthwhile just spending a few minutes having a look at that online, because that's you know, it's a real game changer for how you consider what you do and why you're doing it. So things that you could do to kind of help you really delve down into your why then, you know, think about the jobs that you have done in the past. Think about all the jobs that you could be doing, for instance. So if you're not someone that's come straight from education into doing this, and you've had a whole other career in doing something else, maybe you've gone from job to job to job and you've just not been able to find the thing that's really sort of connected with you. Think about all of those things and think about the reasons why they have not connected with you. What was it about those things that just didn't really work for you? You know, what was your motivation in the first place for going to get those jobs? Was it simply just because you needed to earn some money? Was it because you were kind of pushed in a particular direction to pursue something and you just didn't enjoy it? You know, so think about those things. What have you done prior to coming to this point? When we say think about other jobs that you could be doing, again, if there was kind of an influence in your life, or if you set out on a particular path of study, or just being around other people that have tried to sort of influence what you might be doing, you know, could you still be on that path? Do you think that if you'd have kind of perhaps stuck with that, or you'd have looked at kind of progressing in that particular field, do you think it could have worked for you eventually? Or are you happy to be away from that now? Now think about this. The jobs that you did in the past, or perhaps it's something that you are currently doing, and maybe you're just considering venturing into photography and videography, but think then, past jobs, think about what you're doing right now. Does it really, really make you tick? Does it really make you happy? Does it make you want to get up out of bed in the morning, rush to do it? Are you waking up in the night because you've got so many ideas about what you want to inject into that particular type of work? Does it really make you feel fulfilled?
So does wedding photography and videography make you feel like that? Because you might not have actually asked yourself that question.
Good point.
I know that there's potentially quite a few people will come into wedding photography and videography because they've wanted to go into a particular type of creative work, or they've wanted to go into photography or filmmaking in a particular thing, and they've somehow ended up doing weddings. And it might have been a conscious decision. You know, for us, we purposefully wanted to become wedding videographers and photographers. For some people, they may have had aspirations to do a particular type of photography or a particular type of filmmaking, were finding that wasn't really working out for them, or were looking for somewhere where they could actually make some money from their skills, and this is where they ended up. And is that, if that's the case, have you actually at any point stopped to think, do I really like doing this? Because we're not trying to dissuade people from staying in it. What we're saying is, if you feel pretty bitter, because we do work alongside other people. Most people do love doing weddings. There are definitely some people who don't, and they moan like fuck about it. So if you are one of those people that really isn't fulfilled from doing weddings, it's not too late to say, hey, I'm gonna be honest and realize that, and I'm gonna make it my mission to pursue the thing that is gonna make me feel good. So it's not like pushing you to do that, but it's just maybe asking the question if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
And why do you feel like that?
Yeah, why? Because understanding that could be the thing that's going to help you to understand this overarching why. There's lots of mini whys, isn't there? Why this, why that, why that. That can make the core. The big why. The big why. The core why.
Big why, little why, cardboard box.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why. That just popped into my head.
I mean, so I started there talking about, if you were doing, if you were working in perhaps other professions before considering coming sort of into working in weddings, you've just transitioned that into sort of weddings for us. So to take that aspect of it a little bit further, not just in the kind of grand scheme of things sense, but also, think about a typical wedding day. In trying to help you understand your why, you need to kind of pick apart every aspect of being a wedding photographer or videographer.
No, filmmaker.
Is that right?
I like the word filmmaker.
Right?
I just think videographer's a better SEO word.
Okay. So yeah, pick it all apart at every kind of stage of it, and from running your business from that perspective. To how you market yourself, that branding, all of the rest of it. But then think about the process of dealing with your clients. Think about a typical wedding day. What are the things that you enjoy, that you don't enjoy about these things? Think about after the wedding, what about the editing then, or the actual delivery to the client? Does that still get you excited? Do you still enjoy that aspect of it? Or have you reached a point where it's like shelling peas? Just churn them out, get it out, onto the next one. I need to move on. And again, those things, asking yourself just those questions when you think about every kind of aspect of your business in that respect, I think will be really helpful when you're considering why you might be doing this.
Yeah, and you might ask yourself these questions, and you might sort of think, well, no, I don't like doing that bit of it anymore. Or I never liked doing that bit of it. But you might ask yourself that question, and then rather than it just being like, oh shit, I don't really like doing this anymore, you might actually come to the fact that you've lost the reason that you're doing it. And by asking yourself these questions, you might actually find the passion for it again, because you might realize that what you've been thinking about and what you've been focusing on is the wrong thing. You've got distracted, and this might refocus you by thinking about these things. So just it isn't about being the same as us either. So you'll have your own feelings towards this industry, towards creating photos and videos, and you should highlight those, own those, ensure that everything you are doing aligns with that. So what do I mean by that? We just told you a story about how for us, and this is why when we talk about the artistic and the creative aspect of wedding photography and videography, now I do think that what we do is creative, and I do think that what we do is relatively artistic. But I don't think that Lindsay and I are particularly artistic people. I don't think we don't have interests in art per se. And when I say that, I mean, I think we're quite into culture. Oh, crikey. I think we're quite into culture, but we're more into people.
Yeah.
So we find people interesting, and we find sort of the stories behind people or behind things that happen really interesting, rather than the more abstract that tends to come into art, or the more what's the word for like nice looking, the aesthetics of something. It's not that we don't like the aesthetics, we like to try and make things pretty, but that's just certainly not at the forefront.
No.
And I get that a lot of art is about something looking a certain way. It doesn't necessarily have to look really good, it's about how it looks, and we're very much about how it feels.
Yes.
That's the best way of summarizing it. But just because we like the way it feels and are less bothered about the way it looks, that doesn't mean that that's right, and that people who focus more on how it looks is wrong. It's actually about what makes you tick. So if you are more kind of editorial in style and you gravitate more towards the aesthetics of something and how you can style something, how you can make something look, that it should be the core of your why, and you should be highlighting that, you should be owning that, and then you should be making sure that things align with that, because that's where your passion is, and that's where you need to double down. So this way, you're not only going to feel more fulfilled and getting more out of what you do, rather than it just being like a set of tasks, but you'll have an authentic passion for what you do, and you're more likely to thrive at it. So it isn't about what other people think are good and bad. There's no right or wrong. It's about what you believe and about what your clients believe. Because if they believe in you and you love what you're doing, then that's it. That's the magic sauce.
That's what radiates, isn't it? And that's what they will be drawn to.
Yeah.
So it's not supposed to be for everybody. What you do is not supposed to be for every single couple.
Yeah.
It's not. That's why it's important to understand this, because then you will hone in on, understanding your why will make sure that you're able to kind of hone in on sort of the essence of that. And then that's what you need to put out there. Those are the people that are going to connect with that and what you're about and what you can do for them. That's what you need to put out there.
Absolutely.
Not for everybody.
Yep. And so we started with, we're talking about the creative and the technical aspects, and we will in future episodes discuss more kind of the technical and creative aspects of creating photos and making films. But it's underpinning it with that why that's going to help you make those decisions in a more focused way, so that you, instead of this scattergun approach of like trying this and trying that, and again, I'm talking about this certainly from a personal perspective of trying lots of things, because I didn't focus on the why. I focused on I want to look as good as they do, or I want to win an award, or I want to get this recognition from people. I want them to really love what I do. Other photographers or videographers. But why? Why do I care? I don't. I actually genuinely don't care I got caught up in caring, but I don't really care. I actually care that I'm preserving those memories for people, and that they like the way in which we approach that. And, there's more of it focused on the way we capture it rather than what we capture, because it's supposed to be capturing these natural, authentic moments. Yeah, we do some fun stuff and we do some creative stuff, but capturing it in a way that does not mess with their day.
Doesn't mess with their day. And if somebody was to look back on it,
they'd see
they
themselves.
would see themselves and as they were.
Yeah. And that's it. We want them to connect with that moment, and that moment in who they were. And when people use the word timeless, and when people use the word timeless in this industry, I always know that they're referring to the aesthetics. Okay? And that's why you will never see the word timeless on our website and stuff, because I think what we do is timeless in that it's not. I don't want it to be timeless. I want it to represent that moment in time for that couple, to preserve it for them. If it was just, well, we could take that same image, or we could be in that same video 40 years time, but we're just going to be old and wrinkly. That's not preserving that moment. That's not being able to look back on that memory. So that for me is important. For some people, that won't be the focus. So we'll finish off with just one more Simon Sinek quote, and that is, the goal is not to do business with anybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. And hopefully that...
I think that's right. That's like exactly what we were saying.
Yeah.
You're not making images and wedding films for everybody. For anyone that can access your services, you're not making it for everybody. You're making it for your ideal client, because your ideal client is the person or the people who believe what you believe.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yep. And in the future episodes, we're going to be talking about how, from a technical perspective, you will potentially go, how you will use your technical understanding or your skills to do that in a particular way.
Cool beans.
Is that still a good word, or is that a bit old now?
I don't know. You can edit it out if it is. Thank you all very much for your time today. And thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Divine Studios, for sponsoring this podcast for us. We do hope that this has been interesting and useful for you. If it has, don't forget, please, to like and follow the podcast. And if you have any opinions or questions that you would like to share with us or ask of us, best way to be able to do that is to get in touch with us directly on Instagram at Wedding Mavericks. Please also just give us a little share on your socials, maybe in your stories, etc. And that way people who follow you might see the podcast and think that it might be worthwhile them giving it a listen also. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. We hope that weddings are going well for everybody. It's certainly getting hot.
Put your sun cream on this weekend.
Yes, do. And wear comfortable shoes.
And if you've got a bald patch like me starting, just make sure you think about a hat or something. Or if you're totally bald, definitely wear a hat.
Yeah.
Or slap it on factor 50.
Yeah. Or if you've got fair Scottish skin.
Fair skin like Lindsay.
Like me.
Ginger skin like Lindsay, you really need to make sure you put some sun cream on.
Yes. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. Have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you and speaking to you very soon. Bye.
Bye.